Hi, you little empties. I still can't believe that I call you guys that. It's so weird, but I also love it. So I'm going to keep on doing it. Today's the season 1 finale of Empty Inside. Can't believe it. It's crazy. We did it. We got here. Since this episode is coming out the day before Thanksgiving, I thought it would only be fitting if I came on real quick before getting into the episode to just say a quick thank you. I have gotten so much out of doing this podcast over the past few months, mainly thanks to, of course, to the guests and to their vulnerability. I've certainly learned something unique and unexpected from each guest, but also from connecting with you guys. It's really been a meaningful experience for me to connect with those of you that the podcast resonates with. And a special, very special thank you to my patrons. It sounds weird saying my patrons. It sounds like some sort of cult or something. To the patrons, then that sounds like distant and cold and aloof. I don't know. My patrons. It's so creepy. I'm twirling my mustache over here. Thank you to patrons. The hole is getting deeper and deeper. Really though, you guys in the Empty Inside Patreon community, there we go, that's better, I don't even know how to describe you. It makes my day often to be talking to you guys. You guys are the best. I love learning about you and all the different posts and seeing your exchanges with one another and how supportive you are of each other really warms my heart. And just your guys' willingness to learn and grow is inspiring to me. And I'm so happy to have that space where we all are together. It's great. So thank you all. You are a wonderful group, and I'm grateful to have you. All right, here we go. So excited to be talking with you.
Oh man, thanks for having me. What a trip.
I loved your special on HBO, the golden one. Everybody should check it out. It's exactly the kind of stuff that I love. I'm of the mindset that if I'm not laughing and crying in the course of the same hour, I don't want anything to do with it. So yours just really struck a chord with me, and I'm so glad you made it. I think it's really special.
Thank you. I feel like I was kind of in the that same headspace. I didn't really know for the last, for the 3 or 4 years before I got to make that, everything to me was either the most emotional thing in the world or the funniest thing in the world. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny to I was trying at least to blend the two together. Now I look back on it and I kind of cringe at it, but.
At your special?
Yeah.
What? Really? Wait, say more. How? Why?
It's just embarrassing. It's there's never going. It feels like, wow, I'm never going to get to be a cool, mysterious guy now. All you got to do is watch this thing on HBO, and you kind of learn so much about me.
Well, why do you want to be cool and mysterious? I get it, but don't you think it's much cooler to be vulnerable?
Oh yeah, I think you're totally right. It's definitely a sort of toxic male quality to want to be this cool, mysterious, kind of strange person. Yeah, I guess moving to Hollywood when I was 18 or whatever, those were the types of people that I admired, like River Phoenix or whoever. So, so now I'm well, you know everything about me, so I guess I'm just gonna have to be a stupid goof forever.
But you must love the special though, no? Is it what is this? What are we talking when you say that you're kind of embarrassed by it? Is it
oh no, I love it. I'm so proud of it. No, I love that.
Good.
It's just watching it now. I'm oh, that song. Why did I, why does it have that synthesizer? Or why do I sing that way? Or oh man, I wish that I would have known to wear a hat during that scene. I don't like how my hair looks. Or, that kind of stuff. Why did I tie my shirt to the side? Why did I take off my shirt?
Oh my God, this fucking tied on the side for the shirt. That was great. I've been talking about it for weeks.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so I always tie my shirt to the side, especially when I wear something, if I have a big shirt. If I wear something over it, because then my shirt doesn't look too long. But then I took off my overshirt and I didn't even think about it. But then now I just have this like shirt tied to the side. What in God's hell? Why did I do that? Sorry to keep on talking, but like a lot of the embarrassment comes from, I'm a comedian and I like, really silly comedy and stupid, irreverent comedy. And and then I came out, and that's a lot of what my stand-up has always been, is so like just dumb. And then I come out with my first comedy special, and it's like a pretty, it was a really great learning experience, and also it was just a really emotional experience for me. And
sure.
So I guess that's where the embarrassment comes from, is like, I think it's probably a much better representation of who I am as a person, but it's also kind of like too much for me.
That's interesting. Do you feel in any way like now have you grappled with like, oh, fuck, now I'm stuck to doing this type of thing in the future when this is not even maybe my type of comedy or something like that?
In a way, I was sort of thinking about that. I think, though, really what it has done is it's opened me up in a way creatively that I never really thought about.
Yeah.
It's made me realize that you can get away with really going places that are maybe a little bit dark or sad, but then also be silly and stupid, as long as you're trying really hard and as long as you care. So it's also made me realize, like, as a musician, that my songs don't have to be super joke oriented. Like, sometimes it's nice for an audience just to take a break from my self-indulgent stand-up to listen to a very self-indulgent song.
Sure.
Yeah, but also everything I make forever will always have some, truth there. If I ever get to make another thing, yeah.
What are you focusing more on music or?
Well, during the pandemic, there's nothing, so I'm just making music all day.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure for maybe writing writing shows or features or something.
Oh yeah,
like that.
I'm trying to do all that.
Cool.
Trying to ride whatever heat I can, like of the special. It's difficult because it's really hard gauge because it came out and then there was a pandemic a week later. So
totally.
I don't honestly know like what the industry of Hollywood really thinks. So all I know is that I get nice DM, or I did get really nice DMs for a month or two. So from just normal people, which is better.
No, that's great. That's good. Well, I wanted to talk today about, if you're still cool talking about dead moms. We both got
Oh yeah, I love it. It's my number one thing. Yeah, I saw that a long time ago, maybe a couple of years ago. I saw you were working with Joel Mandelkorn and Mandee Johnson on your show.
Less than a year ago, actually. It just feels like 10 years since the pandemic time.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
And so it's dealing with all the same kind of classic dead mom crap.
Yeah, classic dead mom crap. And definitely I related to a lot of your stuff of just dealing with like there was a lot there to your relationship with your mom. And a lot, obviously there is with any mom, but when there is something like your mom with her alcoholism, my mom had, cancer on and off for my entire life. She had it for the first time when I was 2. And then it was just always like, oh, fuck, mom's going to die. When's mom going to die? Is it now? Is it no? Okay. Just always on that.
Yikes.
The back and forth. But the lack of closure, I guess, is something. I mean, maybe you tell me, do you feel like there's a lack of closure with your mom's death? Where are you at with it now? It's been a bit longer, I think, since your mom passed than my mom.
Yeah, closure. Man, I don't know. Like, closure with my family, I think is impossible. I don't know if I'll ever feel real closure with any of my family members. But with my mom, I think the closure for me was my show. I think that's the only real reason I was doing it. It was just me spinning out about her death and kind of comparing myself to her constantly, her being also wanting to be in showbiz. And I always say showbiz because it's like specifically, I guess she wanted to be a musician, but I think she would have taken whatever.
Anything, yeah. DMs from people.
So yeah, exactly. So yeah, for me, there was no there was no honest closure, really. She just sort of drank herself to death my whole life, and so like I always I always say I watched my mom die like a bunch of times before she actually died, which I'm sure you have been there as well.
Yeah, I mean, a million times. There was this one time that sticks out for sure for me where it was like I had just moved into a new apartment and I was like 3 blocks from where I worked at the time, which was Nickelodeon Studios. And my face was like on the side of it was like on a billboard on the side of the building.
What year was
grinning.
this?
This was like probably 2011 or 2012. I'm guessing.
Okay, I remember this.
Oh God, man. So I made sure that I didn't get an apartment facing the billboard. Obviously, I didn't, because I was already at this point like ashamed to be on the show. I didn't want to deal with like a daily dose of humiliation just while I'm brushing my teeth, seeing me. So I was like going to lunch with my mom and my grandpa, and we get in the car. We pull out of my parking structure, and my mom starts like having a full-on seizure. She's literally frothing at the mouth. She's convulsing. Like I'm thinking, fuck, she's gonna die. I hadn't experienced her having a seizure before. I didn't know what the fuck was happening. My grandpa like wheels into the Nickelodeon parking lot and starts yelling like, somebody call an ambulance to the security guard. They call an ambulance. My mom's rolled into the stretcher. I'm like holding her hand. She's still convulsing. And we wheel away with the siren like blaring. And I'm looking at my fucking face on this billboard. And in that moment, it just felt like everything in my life was mocking everything in my life. Like,
oh, wow.
You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know. It was just dealing with my fucking smile while my mom's dying. And it just was, I don't know. I felt like I was imploding in that moment.
Well, yeah, I bet. I mean, I feel lucky and fortunate that this all happened to me when I was like, I had zero success, or it didn't seem like it was even near the horizon for me. Like when you're young and I imagine working in Hollywood and showbiz, you feel like you can, or at least your image and all these things are so controlled. You have this whole team of people working for you.
Right.
And then and there's a literal like airbrushed picture of your face on a giant wall, which is just so like tailor-made for like 11-year-olds to freak out at when they drive by. And in the meantime, your mom is convulsing and there's nothing you can do about it. It's hell. I bet it's like total hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, the whole seizure thing, I feel like you really got to experience a parent having a seizure in order to have your entire innocence stripped from you.
So your mom had seizures?
Oh yeah, my mom would try to quit like whatever substance cold turkey all the time, and she was seizure prone, so she would just like have a seizure. One time she was doing this not ritual, I don't know. Whenever I'd be kind of have like night terrors, night stress, couldn't sleep. My mom would do this, like she would like scratch my back pretty much, and she would say this poem. And while she was doing that, I was probably 10 or 11. She had a seizure and she bit
while
her
she was
tongue
saying the
off.
poem to you?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How you were 10 or what are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
She bit her tongue. What are you?
Because a lot of people bite their tongue off when they have seizures.
Oh my God.
But
what happened?
I didn't know I didn't know about seizures.
Oh.
Yeah, so I called my mom had a seizure. She bit her tongue off, and then she was like, didn't know what was going on, after you have a seizure. And I was like, what the heck? So I called my grandparents, and they came and got her, and that was it for me. Like, I was like, all right, I think I'm probably on my own.
Oh my God. So
seizures are no joke. No.
Yes. So so this was like since when there was never a time where she was like off the drink for a considerable amount of time. It was pretty consistent.
Yeah, it was all. I mean, really. So my dad left when I was in 4th grade officially, but he had already been to rehab when I was a kid, like a little kid. And they were just both wild. Both my parents were just so wild with partying and stuff. And my mom had already had a whole history of drugs and selling drugs like on a really large scale with her ex-husband. And then my brother's dad, and then he went to prison and
you found this out after she died, or?
Yeah. Yeah. I found a lot of this stuff out when this is all, the whole story of my there's so much that we had to cut out of.
I was wondering. I was curious. Yeah.
I mean, my stand-up show is like an hour and 20 minutes. So, and we had to cut that to 45 minutes and try to fit in 15 minutes of documentary. So it was like, we cut out a lot. stuff.
Interesting. I wondered about that because I listened to your Marin as well, and there was some other interesting details. And I related to that as well with like finding out things about my mom after she died that just sent me, I was on a mission to find like the truth, whatever that was, because little bits of the truth were kind of sprinkling out. And I became kind of obsessed with it and chasing those answers in such a way that it was just it was causing me to tailspin to the point where I literally just had to let it go and find a way to be okay with not knowing the answers, not having the closure, because not having them and chasing them the way that I was really causing me to, I was like slowly unraveling, it was not sustainable, my life as it was when I was trying to get those answers.
Yeah, man. Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, there's not a ton of mystery like with my mom, but there is definitely stuff I love hearing about and I love learning more about. I did learn a lot more about her after she died that I wish I could have been older so we could have like had these conversations and she could have told me. But it wasn't, it's kind of when I found this stuff out about my mom and the drug trafficking stuff, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it wasn't like you were angry at her or dealing with.
No, my mom, I wish I could have been angry. I think maybe I wasted a lot of my anger in my really young youth on my mom in a way that I didn't have a choice to. But, with drinking, it just didn't really make sense. And why she would continue to drink and get in all this trouble or whatever it was. She was always like, getting a DUI or something like that, having a seizure, getting into weird situations, like forgetting songs. That was a whole part of the documentary that we kind of cut out is my aunt and their guitarist, Ricky, who you can see at the very end. He's like an older guy in a golden kimono playing guitar along with us. We had to kind of cut him out. We just didn't have enough time. But they're telling stories about all the times my mom and my aunt would forget. They'd be too fucked up. All the times they got fired in their like 30s and 40s for forgetting the songs because they were too fucked up. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff like that was fun and interesting to hear. But for the most part, I always just felt really bad for my mom. It was really awkward and she just couldn't, her life was really hard. Like, her first son died, then her first husband went to prison, then met my dad, thought everything was cool, then he left. And now, she wanted to be this big star and she just keeps, fucking it up somehow. So I always just felt, and it was also like my mom, whatever she was going through, I would hear her at night, like playing piano, trying to write a song about it. So I would understand that my mom wasn't this calloused sociopath. Like she was feeling a lot of remorse for the decisions that she had made. And I
get you. I guess it's something that I struggle with is feeling bad for my mom or even my grandma who's still alive and well. She's just always going to be here, it feels like. But with them, it's like, I guess I'll use my grandma as an example because she had a really fucking hard life where her house burned down and her husband left and she lost her parents. And it's just like, but at some point I still feel angry at her, honestly, where I'll be like, but that's not an excuse. That's not permission to make shitty choices that damage other people. I don't know. I wish I had more softness in me. I guess I wish I felt, empathy toward her, but I really struggle with that toward my mom and my grandma. Teach me your ways.
Were your mom and your grandmother close?
Yeah, my grandparents lived with us growing up. We lived in like a 1,200 square foot house with my grandparents, my mom, my 3 older brothers, very, very close quarters. And my mom
sounds like the Culkins. I just listened to Kieran Culkin on WTF, and he was saying it was a similar situation.
No kidding. Oh, yeah. I got to listen. It was very crammed, and my mom was always complaining to me about my grandma, so I'm sure that got in my head. But where my relationship with my mom differs is from mine with my grandma's. I always, from an early age, I kind of didn't jive with my grandma, and I knew that. Like from 5 on, I just knew, okay, she's not my people.
But my mom, I idolized. I worshiped the ground she walked on. She was my identity. Like I lived and breathed for her. So, no resentment, no anger, just complete like adoration. And then when she died was when I started kind of realizing that maybe I needed to reframe how I saw her based on things that I was learning about her and learning about myself when, once I had started working on myself in therapy and what have you. But
wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So like, oh God, I couldn't imagine having to live with my grandparents. I mean, I guess
you're still living?
I did live with my grandparents, actually.
When? How old were you?
When I was between 10 and 13, I kind of was on and off with my grandparents, depending on.
So they were with you and your mom?
So it would kind of work like my mom would get on her feet. She would be able to rent a house or something for me and my brother and her to live in. And then something would happen, or she'd go to rehab or get in trouble in some way. And then we'd have to move in with my grandparents or my aunt and uncle, or a different aunt and uncle, or my friend Clay's mom. Or it was always there was always something going on, And then my dad moved. He kind of like emerged. Me and my brother moved in with him when I was in high school.
And at this point, what are you feeling toward him? Are you
at this point? It was really exciting he was so cool, and my dad was always like, even classic dad kind of thing. Like everybody loved him, and everybody wanted to fuck him, and all the girls and all my mom's friends. I'm sure he was having sex with all of them. Even when my dad bailed, he is just the most like articulate, charming, cool, fun, can dance. Could play guitar if you gave him 10 minutes to learn kind of guy,
Mm-hmm.
But he was just so fucked up. And when I was a kid, and then, so when he bailed, it was so confusing. And then had my mom and my brother and me had to move down to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and from Birmingham. And so there is where like I met all these other kids who also didn't have dads. And so I was able to just sort of accept that like, this is the island of no dad, so it was kind of normal. So when my dad started to show back up, it was really exciting. And I could tell that he was very different. I could feel it. And I remember it being awkward that like he didn't have a beer or he didn't have like a drink. I remember thinking it's weird that he like drinks water. And he also looked really broke. He looked like poor. He drove a terrible car and had like terrible clothes, just like, and when he had left, he was like this successful young lawyer.
Did you figure out the story behind that? What transpired in those years?
Yeah, he just got too fucked up. He couldn't take it. He just couldn't like handle life. I think he had gotten in a lot of trouble with his clients. This is what my brother told me.
Yeah.
I don't have the full story, but I think like he had gotten in trouble with some of his clients. He was working with some really kind of shady big characters and owed his clients money and all this other stuff. And then stuff with my mom wasn't great. So he just ran off one night. Yeah, and didn't come back until I was about, I was 14.
So you just woke up and then he's just not there?
No, he told me. He left. Him and my mom got in a big fight. He was smoking a joint on the steps of my house and outside. My mom and him got in a fight, I think, because he's supposed to be sober. And so he threw the joint in the bushes to like ash it, but it caught the bushes on fire in front of my house. And my mom freaked out and ran out with the fire extinguisher. And then her and my dad got in this big fight. And then my dad was like, I'm out of here, dude. I'm going to go stay at the office and I'll be back tomorrow. And then he said, give me a call at the office. And then he left and drove away. Yeah. And then he never came back. It was bizarre. He sort of came back. Like he came back one time, in the middle of the night.
What? Wait.
Like
what? Where? What was he doing?
3 or 4 months later. Yeah.
He's like collecting clothes so he can leave again.
I think he was on the run. I think that was what was going on. He was literally disappeared. Like nobody knew where he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he showed back up in the middle of the night one night. And then I woke up and walked past a spare bedroom in the house and he was there asleep in it. And I was like, oh my God, you're awake. I woke him up and he looked like shit. And he was like, I'll pick you up from school today. And then he never did and then was gone. that was
my
it.
God.
And then, so he got sober.
Yeah.
He started to reach back out and like try to contact me. And I went and visited him where he was in Delray Beach, Florida. He was in a halfway house down there. And then he surprised me one day. So I feel like I'm talking for a long time, but.
No, please. I want to hear the story.
So yeah, so he showed up back to Alabama and Gulf Shores on New Year's Eve, and my brother was having a show. His metalcore band, hardcore band was having a show in the bottom story of our house. And it was really cool. And my dad was so excited. He was like, wow, look at these kids. They're like so cool. It was really awkward for me because I had grown up. I was like 6 feet tall, you know? And I had hair under my arms, and I was like a developed kid, like already, you know, and he had missed that part. So there was this awkwardness. I wasn't a little kid anymore. Like I remember not really knowing, when you left, I called you daddy, I think. And now you're back. It's like, I'm not calling you daddy. Like, what do I say to you? So I would call him like Whitmer or like father as a joke, you know. His name is also Whitmer.
Right.
So yeah, and then my dad went upstairs to see what was going on with my mom, and it was her and like all of the people in our town, in our neighborhood, who they were all just like taking pills and all fucked up. And everybody's they put up a roadblock outside of my place because everybody was getting a DUI leaving it, all the grownups. And so my dad the next day was like, we went to get something to eat, and he drove past this. He was like, where do all your friends live? And I was like, they all live in this little neighborhood. And he goes, cool. And then he was like, whoa, look at this house. There's this house right by my friend Jeremy. And it was this little pink little house. And he goes, what do you think of this thing, man? I was like, it's so cool. Jeremy lives 3 houses down. And he goes, yeah, cool. And then he left. He started driving back to Delray. And then he called me on the way back and he said, I just got that house.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then he came back like a couple weeks later, and then I moved in with him.
What a character. In what world does that happen?
Well, it was cool, man. I mean, I'm so lucky, man. Like dads don't come back and mine did, but he was just doing it. He was like doing the work. He got sober. He was trying to get me and my brother Johnny back in his life. And he had lost his law license. So he was working as like a paralegal, which is a job of a 25-year-old, and writing briefs for his old friends and things like that. And just trying.
So he's back in your life. And at this point how old were you then?
14.
And your mom's, what's she doing? Where's her health at?
Oh, it's really bad. Like, so my mom, in all of this time when we were living with her, it was in and out of rehab, and moved in with this boyfriend of hers who was just awful. She had inherited like $100,000 or something from her aunt. And this was really exciting for me and my brother because it meant that we were free of the shackles of my grandparents. Like, we didn't have to live with them anymore. And they didn't like us too much, I don't think. My grandparents. I think we just caused them so much stress because of shit with my mom. And then we were this obligation. So it was really exciting when this person who I don't think we had ever even met died because my mom inherited $100,000. And I remember she took us to get Mexican food and told us, and she was like, what do we want to do? And all this stuff. It was so cool. And we were like, let's just get a place like away from, everything. And she ended up adding a wing onto her boyfriend's house that we hated.
No.
With it. Yeah. And so we ended up having to move into this house with this fucking guy who wouldn't let my brother park in his driveway. We weren't allowed to have friends over, all this stuff. Then my mom started drinking or relapsed. And then he kicked all of us out in the middle of the night. That guy.
After how long had you been living there?
About a year, maybe.
And then
maybe not a year, actually. Then we moved in with my aunt and uncle. My aunt, who you meet in the special.
I can't imagine what you're dealing with in regards to your relationship with your mom during those years. Was that the peak of the resentment, the anger? When was the peak of the anger?
It had died. It was totally dead by then. It was nothing. It was just kind of feeling the peak of all that was when I was 11. I think that's when if I found wine bottles in the house, I would like smash them in the street. And I was just really upset and angry about it then. And then it just, you get so numb to it. Like I just lost all hope or trust. And then,
God.
Yeah, I wish that I mean, that's something I always talk about in therapy is like, I don't ever get mad at anything now. I can't like, and unless I'm like, I think that's why I like acting a lot is because I can be mad or I can really cry or something like that. And it doesn't feel like I'm going to hurt anybody's feelings because it's fake.
Right.
Whereas with my mom, I would smash a bunch of bottles and freak out at her. Me and my brother would, and she would just break down. And like, it was such a sad thing, you know?
Yeah. The acting thing, obviously, you know, you weren't acting in it, your life and you're special, but it jumped out at me. I was like, oh, I think he's like a scary good actor. Like, I think I feel like
right, I'm faking all of that. No, but yeah, no, that's why I moved out here was to do that. So, I mean,
right. Yeah, no, I think it definitely seems like you've got. Does that even make sense? Like, I know it's your life, but it just feels like I don't know. You just seem like you'd be a good actor. Is that a weird thing to say?
No, thanks. That's cool. Yeah. I think that's a cool quality, maybe. Or it could also be a bad quality, but whatever. I'll take it.
I mean it in the good way. So why do you think it was at the peak when you were 11? Was there a specific incident or was it just the buildup? Why 11?
I think my aunt had been sober then for a couple years and I really wished my mom would be like her. And my whole life was so I could see an example of it. I also had just made all these friends in this new town who's all had single parents, and I would see how they handled shit. They never forgot to pick them up from school, or you know all that kind of stuff. And so there was that, and then I would hear from my grandparents or my family just like, your mom can't drink. If she drinks, she's gonna die. That's what everybody would always say. Like, you have to take care of your mom and stuff. When I was a kid, so. And then also my dad had left. So I was just kind of angry. And
yeah.
So I had this access to this rage back then. But you smash enough bottles and realize it doesn't really matter. It's like, she's not going to just stop because I'm breaking things. Like, you know, she's going to keep having terrible boyfriends and keep doing all this until she decides she doesn't want to anymore.
So did you sort of find forgiveness for her then when she was that what switched for you? Or, you know, when you gave up, was there a degree of forgiveness in that giving up, or was it just like, fuck this, I'm done trying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I don't think I don't think it was forgiveness. It was just sick of it. And I was like so punk. I got really into like music and girls and skating and
distractions.
When I was like 11 or really young, you know, I was like had a band and was very serious about it and was obsessed with music, like in a way that I don't know a lot of 11-year-olds who were like that. But it would, and, you know, my brother's 5 years older. So, and then he would he took care of me. So I became, all my friends were like, you know, 16 or a lot of them, you know, other than my friends at school. So it would be like my brother waking me up and being like, dude, we're going to go to a midnight show in Pensacola and watch a fucking hardcore band. Like, come on, you have to film it so we can watch it when we get home. Or like my brother making me go surf with him just so I could film him. Or it was mostly me like being invited to all the cool things because they knew I would sit there and film.
That's fun. There you go.
Yeah, so I didn't care. It felt like I just stopped caring. And then the only reason I would care is because I would have to I would move around all the time. And
right. So it's a direct kind of hindrance. No, I guess the reason why I ask is because I feel like if things aren't, like I imagine that would just still be a looming bump. It's so surprising to me that that's not still there for you. I guess, I don't know. Forgiveness is something I really struggle with.
Not being able to forgive.
Well, just to have, it sounds almost to me like you sort of bypassed that and it just went from, you know, there's the anger and the resentment and then there's the, I give up on this and then you you throw yourself into other things. But then to me, it always feels like if there isn't that process of forgiveness, it's just, you know, the trauma of whatever that person did to you kind of recurs. I don't know. That's my experience.
Yeah, you're probably totally right. You should talk to my therapist. She probably has a lot more to say about all this. But I mean, my mom was so apologetic all the time. Yeah. She would be like fucked up, throwing up on a floor and be going, "I'm sorry," you know. So
yeah,
it was just like she wasn't unfeeling. It was just impossible.
Right.
And looking back, you know, she jeopardized my life so many times. Like she got a DUI dropping me and my girlfriend off at a school dance when I was like 14. And
oh my God.
It was, and then my girlfriend wasn't allowed to hang out at my house. It was a whole thing. And I was like, I didn't even, I was so deep into this sort of life that I didn't even think of that. I don't think I wasted any time thinking about that. I think the next day I went to school and then I was like, where do we go skate? Or I wrote this song or whatever it is. You know, I wasn't really thinking about it. Now, if I say that to anybody else, they're like, holy shit. But
yeah,
back then it wasn't something that I was wasting a lot of time thinking about.
It's so interesting. What about with hospice? Was she on hospice there toward?
Yeah. So my mom had a bunch of complications due to alcoholism, like cirrhosis. And then she also used to shoot drugs. And so she had some issues with that, like hepatitis and stuff. And so those two things combined, that was what they would always say is like, your mom, if she continues to drink, she's going to die. If she stops drinking right now, she'll live a fine, healthy life. And so it was always that. And that ended up being the thing, you know, that got her. So she just couldn't stop drinking, and she didn't shoot drugs. She stopped doing that. Like she never did that. I don't think while I was alive. So one day, I think my cousin Jenny called me, and my cousin was like, your mom's dying. And I was like, what? I called my mom, and my mom was like, that's a lie. That's not true. And then I was like, oh, okay. Then a couple of weeks later, because my mom had been sober. She had been sober enough to come visit me and my brother in LA. I had just sort of recently moved out to LA, and it was really cool. My mom was like, we walked around. It was just like a version of her that I never really knew. Like we were walking around Venice Beach, and that's where she, I think at one point sort of lived there. And some people stopped her because she was dressed really cool and asked to put her on their blog. And it was just like a very exciting time. You know, we took her to see a concert, and it was just really fun. You know, like she drove us around and pointed out spots that she used to hang out and stuff in the 70s. And then this was right after that. And then she went home, and then my cousin called, and then my mom denied that. And then a couple of weeks later she called and was like, it's true. Like they say I have like 6 months to live, and I'm really sorry. Yeah.
So she didn't look, when she visited you, she didn't have obvious signs of...
No, I guess her gums were just bleeding nonstop. And that's kind of the sign that things are about the end when you have these like conditions. Yeah. So, you know, I would talk to her pretty regularly, once a week or something. And she was fine. It always seemed like she was fine. And then I went and visited her that Christmas, and her stomach was really swollen, and she'd always has to get it drained. But she was still normal and fine. And then a couple months later, my mom's friend called us and was like, hospice is here. Your mom has a few days. Yeah. So and my mom she wasn't keeping us in the loop at all. She felt really guilty about it.
Yeah. I imagine.
Yeah. She didn't want me and my brother to like uproot our lives in any sort of way to come take care of her, because she felt ashamed.
My mom was sort of the opposite, where she kind of like cancer was her, me and cancer were the things that kind of defined her. And she always, like, she loved kind of being a martyr, excuse me. And, you know, of course her situation was so hard. I can't imagine the struggles of constantly on and off cancer for 15 years. But it was like she loved, wearing the cancer merch and who's going to take me to chemo today and the spectacle of it. And she loved kind of the sadness of it. Like, I remember her sitting me down at a Panda Express, which is where she wanted to go for her birthday, another martyr move on her part, I guess.
Wow.
And she was like, will you sing Wind Beneath My Wings at my funeral? And it was weird because at that point, she's not even like, she wouldn't really talk about her death. So for her to say this, it was just like, oh my God, can we not talk about this? Please. But she kept asking and asking. So then I felt like obligated to sing Wind Beneath My Wings at her funeral. I was like practicing it for months leading up to the funeral. And looking back on it now, the lyrics to that song are it's crazy. It's like she wanted me to sing about her being the hero and me being kind of scum of the earth, like Quasimodo, and her being like the person who lifted me up. It's so gross to look at now that I feel like I have more of an idea of who she was.
Yeah, she's canceled. No, it's crazy. It's wild what illness will do to a person. And it's, man, wow,
Isn't
that's
it
wild.
weird?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All this, like, when I'm dead talk, it's like, fuck off with all that. I don't remember. My mom would sometimes say stuff like that too. And
oh, interesting.
Making jokes like, I'm still here or whatever. And it's like, it was just a confusing time. Yeah. So, you can't fault them for it, but.
Oh, I do.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
No, yeah. It sounds like I like your approach toward all of it. I like your kind of how you seem to be processing. I don't know. I hold on to anger. Clearly, it's like not a good thing. I got to work on that.
Well, I don't at all. So, and that's also a bad thing.
You can have some of mine. I want to get rid of this shit.
I'd happily take it. It's like, and what's crazy is I've wasted so much time in this pandemic being jealous of.
What do you mean?
Just career stuff, like, oh, my comedy special came out and then a pandemic happened. I had to cancel my fucking tour and any sort of heat for me. I've been in LA for so long since I was 18 and now I'm 32 now. So I was like, all of this shit, now is my time. The special came out and it was well received. And then this happened. And then I would look on the internet and I'd see all these people who are like really good at the internet, like becoming viral Twitter and Instagram comedians, just being so overwhelmed with jealousy. So I spent a month probably just trying to get over that jealousy. And then I think I've really kind of gotten all over the hump with jealousy. I don't really experience it as much anymore, but now I'm bored as fuck. It's like the jealousy was fueling me in some way to
giving.
It's crazy.
Was it helping to motivate you? I mean, it sounds like you're working on a bunch of stuff, but was it helping you in any way to motivate you to work on more or anything like that? Or
it was only motivating me to work on internet videos. And then I found
so it's a good thing it's done.
Internet stuff, like anything with instant gratification. And then I found out that I was not really getting that very regularly. So now I'm kind of taking a break from social media stuff.
Oh, that's cool. That seems like a good move. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, the pandemic's weird. I guess where it affected, I had just kind of started picking at Pete with my show. And for me, this very much, like, it resonated with me when you said that your show was kind of closure for you, because this is, warning, I might get like a little emotional talking about this.
No, that's okay.
But thanks. Yeah, this show was sort of the closure for me in dealing with all this shit of like my mom. And it was really important to me personally to do it. It was something that I didn't really want to do because I'm done performing. And I had even considered like, well, I'll just have my friends do the show and wear wigs. And I was like, that's a fucking awful idea. I have to do the show, whatever. So I like got over my whole thing of not wanting to perform anymore. And I did it to perform this show. And I felt like I was really kind of with each show plugging away at the closure that I've craved for, 5.5 years since my mom died. And then it just was stopped because of the pandemic. And it just felt like I had already told myself, like, I don't want to do this show past the end of 2020 because, I'm getting the closure that I need. And it's something that I don't believe in like dragging this for years to come. And that's not, I don't think that will be useful to myself or anybody who sees it if it's just like this long running, whatever, years long thing. But now I'm wondering how else to get the closure that I want. And I don't have that answer. I'm like working on it, but I'm in this murky place, you know, of trying to figure out, I guess, yeah, how to find peace, how to find closure with my mom shit when I felt like so relieved to have found some sort of a vehicle for that closure. And then for it just be like, well, the vehicle has now crashed for who knows how long. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, you're doing a podcast. That's something. You're learning for sure.
Yeah, no, that's true. But it's not, you know, and this is the most I've talked about my mom. So thanks again for being down to talk about it. But that really is like, that's the thing for me, that she defined me. She was my life. And
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And you know, what's good about a show, I don't know what you would call it, a one-woman show, one-person show.
I guess so. It sounds so cringy.
A comedy
sure.
show? I don't know. Is it's never done. It's never over. You know, I was doing the Golden One for 3 years. And
were you really?
Oh, yeah. And then I got to make the special. But if I didn't end up making it, I would still be working on it now. I would still be thinking about it. And now this is just another chapter in that is, well, you find this closure in doing this show and realizing that you're so wrapped up in your mom, like that's your entire life. And then suddenly you can't even do that anymore. And so who are you, you know? And, you know, there's a whole, this is just another chapter to the show. So that's all that it really is like when things are normal again, which they will be. I don't even believe in COVID. I voted for Trump and I'll do it again. No, that's a joke. Once things start happening again, it's just a new chapter. So really, if like that's what you should be working on is like, what the hell is this? Like, if anything's spinning out right now is the time to absolutely spin out about the future. And also just like creatively, how do you even do comedy again or a show again after
navigating
the biggest like devastation ever? And then especially when your show is about personal loss and devastation.
Right,
so
right.
It's almost like everybody in a way has probably suffered. And people will probably be much closer to what you're dealing with, what you've dealt with in your show when this is over, because a lot of moms are dying right now.
Oh my God.
They're dropping like flies, I'm telling you. Now with COVID, moms are dropping at even a higher rate.
Oh, man. I loved what you were saying. I don't know whether this was in the WTF or part of your special, but finding your identity in your mom's death. You know?
Oh, yeah. I don't know where I said that, but that's the truth.
But I wanted to talk about that because I think that's what it is, right? Like if you were 19 when she passed, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was 21 and it's like, I don't know. It's still there for me. It's still such a big part of who I am is this idea of like my mom died when I was 21 and you carry it with you. I don't know how, I don't think it is a thing that you can just like, you know, you can't leave it behind. It's always there. It's kind of this like haunting, weird factoid. Yeah. How do you navigate it? Like, is it something that you worry about relying on too much as part of your identity? Where are you at with it?
Yeah. Well, here, the truth is that my identity is that I'm a Blink-182 obsessed skater boy. But no, the dead mom thing is actually the truth. It's like it's this freedom in discovering that I think that it's not my sick mom is my identity. It's that my dead mom. It's the hardest part of my life is over. I know that more people who are close to me will die, but nothing I hope will ever be as strung out as that. Like just as long and weird and strange, and my whole family broke apart after that. And I just can't imagine something like that happening again. Maybe it will. I hope not. But so it's like finding my identity. Yeah, at first when I was 20 or something, I would be like, I'm not afraid of anything now. I can do anything. So I started doing comedy and, but then being 27 and thinking, oh shit, like now I'm in my late 20s and I'm just doing what my mom did, and I'm like depressed, and everybody like it's had a bunch of hits, like a bunch of negative things happened in my career. Like I lost a cool thing and was fired from a cool thing and all this stuff, and I just felt like, oh shit, I'm gonna end up being the house band now at the Floribama. So that became my identity. The depressing, I'm a piece of shit, kind of like, fuck, what have I done? My mom thought I was going to be something cool, and then I'm nothing. So that became my identity. And I don't know if it was that fun to be around. So when I started doing my show, I owned it and made fun of it. And that made me feel better. And it also made me less desperate to be validated. People responded to it. So like that became my identity. And now my identity hopefully will just be, I'm like a person who had a mom die and she was an alcoholic and so was my dad and all this kind of bullshit. But now I want people to feel joy about it. And,
Interesting.
I think your identity kind of changes, but it's always going to be from that one thing. It's just how I'm kind of handling that one thing.
I hear you. Yeah, I just realized I think a part of me fears losing my mom's death as part of my identity, because I worry that means that I'm like letting her go or something.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I felt. The last time I did that, this was a whole emotional thing for me as well.
Yeah.
The last time I did my show was in Brooklyn at the Bell House, and it was my dream, that was my number one dream was to sell out the Bell House. And then I got to do it, and I did my show, and my dad came on stage, and I did this song called Dancing with My Dad, and my brother came and played with me, and it was really fun and really cool and just a total dream. And then it was over. That was it. And then my special came out a few weeks later, and then I was like, oh, it's fine. It's fucking over. Like, and I finally went to sleep, truly, for my whole life, really, but especially the last 12 years, I have to watch TV to go to sleep. I got to watch Batman cartoons, or else I have nightmares that my mom is alive or whatever it is. And
oh man.
And I could finally sleep, and I slept, I think, for a really long time. It's weird. I definitely lost a huge part of my mom when I ended this. I lost that connection. But the truth is I don't need that connection anymore. It's over. It's done. I'm a grown up now, So I think that's where I'm at with it now. But in the future, maybe I'll be like, whoops. But right now, your mom is gone. That's the thing is, it was probably hell being a kid and having to deal with all that. I don't know what was it with you? Was it you guys, when you started working as an actor, was that a ticket out for a lot of your family, or was it?
Yeah, I was the little 10-year-old breadwinner, and it was my mom basically lived vicariously through me. She wanted to be an actress, so she put me in acting when I was 6, and everything about me was what she had wanted to be. She wanted to be blonde, so she highlighted my hair with boxed highlights from Rite Aid when I was 9. And so then when she passed, I was left to figure out, well, what do I actually want to do, since I didn't want to actually put me in this, since I didn't want to be any of the things that she wanted me to be, but I just felt like I had to. And that's when I started, trying to write and direct things. But now it's I'm over here, working my ass off and waiting for it to pan out on the scale that my acting did. And in the meantime, I'm wondering, was my mom just better at being me than I was? Did she know all along?
Oh, wow.
Well,
that's really interesting.
It's weird, right?
That's its own book or movie or something.
It's a journey.
Yeah, I can't fucking imagine. When I was a kid, I dreamed of what you were going through, and now I look at people who are actors when they were kids, and I have like a lot of friends like that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe that's all right.
Yeah, for sure. It's all right.
And all the kids that I would meet who were actors and who had been out in LA for a long time. Because I moved here when I was 18, so I met a lot of my friends when I first moved here were teenagers
Mm-hmm.
who were like working actors, you know, and they were so fucking fucked up in a way that like it was hardcore. Can't imagine. But yeah, well, you know, it's gonna happen. Like the thing is with doing these shows, and doing shows in general, is they only get better the more you do them.
Right.
So like it's just really up to you as far as whether or not you want to keep it going or what, you know, whatever it is. Like because the good thing is if you just got to think of it, well, the longer I do this show, the better it's going to get, or the funnier, whatever, more interesting it's going to get.
Sure.
It's going to connect with a lot more people. And that's like the best thing in the world. I'm sure people come up to you afterwards and say, oh, my mom died or whatever it was. And
man,
it feels nice.
Yeah, you had said a thing in Marin about like people knowing if somebody's coming up to you afterward based on kind of like you can tell whether they're talking about a mom death or
or like not being able to get it up to sex.
Yeah. And my things are definitely, it's like either they've got mom death face, they've got eating disorder face, or there's just like Mormons who are like basically muttering the scripture verse they're going to try to tell me to get me to go back to church.
Oh, whoa.
You know, I can just like feel based on their kind of body language, how they're walking into the room, which of the three they are. And they're all equally great. It's all, I love that any of those areas connect with anybody. It's nice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Do you have we're getting out of time here. We're going a little bit over. If you don't mind, just a couple questions.
Yeah, that's okay.
A couple more to wrap up. Do you have any regrets about your relationship with your mom? Anything you wish you would have done differently?
Now, with so much time has passed, I look back and I wish I would have gone and been with her in Alabama when she was dying. Like
really?
For that 6 months. Yeah.
Because what would have happened had you done
I just would have gotten to know her in a way that, you know, I moved away right when I became an adult. I moved to LA. So right when I turned 18. So I just never got to know her that way. And then I was here, I wasn't long after until she died, but, you know, I could have gotten to know her a little bit better and could have gotten her side of the story if she would have told me. But then I think back, it's like, well, my aunt was there. My aunt was like kind of a nightmare at the time. My grandparents were both nightmares. And actually, there's no way that it would have even worked. My mom would have just been like telling me to hide in my room every time my family came over, which is what she would do. She'd be like, your grandmother's coming over. You need to go to your room and I'm going to act like you're sick so that she doesn't try to get you to like go build her a new house or something. I don't know. But so I sort of regret that. And no, but it's hard to say I regret anything about me and my mom because it's informed me so much. I just wish I wouldn't have wasted all my like anger in my youth, I guess, you know, on her. I wish I could still access a little bit of it.
Why?
I think it would just be nice to understand not to just feel like sadness and empathy for her. I want to be mad at her too in a way. So, but I just really can't. So I wish that I just wouldn't have wasted it all. I wish I would have like been a little bit more chill in general regarding stuff around my mom, but I don't think it was possible. So it's hard to say like if I actually technically have any. My biggest regret, honestly, with my mom is that she bought me a skateboard when I was in 8th grade. She bought me a toy machine skateboard deck, but because she was driving to Florida to Pensacola where the skate shop was, and I needed a new skateboard, and I asked her to get me a Chad Muska Shorties board, but she got me a toy machine board with a turtle on it because she thought it was prettier, and I didn't like it, and so I went skating and I broke it on purpose. I broke it in half.
Yeah.
And I told her that I broke it on accident. And then But I was like, yeah, I broke this on accident because toy machine boards aren't good wood. And you should have got me the shorties. That's like a thing that I think about all the time. I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? What? You know?
Right.
It's the brattiest thing I think I ever did. And like, yeah, so, I mean,
Oh, God.
yeah.
I have a
That's
bratty
my
moment
big regret.
the turtle board 3000. What's it called?
Toy machine, yeah.
Toy machine. I have a bratty moment. I was probably like 4 and I hated fucking wearing like dresses and frills. And my mom got me like a little Minnie Mouse dress. My family did not have any money. My grandpa worked at Disneyland, so we got a discount, got me this dress. And she put me in it to go to the park for some reason. I mean, I guess that's her fault. I shouldn't be wearing a frilly dress at Eastgate Park. But I'm there and there's like these older kids playing in the mud and I wanted to play in the mud. That was my idea of a fun time. But I'm wearing this fucking dress and my mom's like, don't go in the mud, don't go in the mud. And I had never really defied her at all or challenged her. And so little, but then I remember just like looking at her while I went in the mud and like spraying the mud all over my clothes. And I regret that a lot. I think it was so mean. Like my mom was trying to get me in a cute little dress and, you know, probably hurt her pretty bad. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, looking back, everybody was an asshole at some point. But hey, guess what? I had like friends who were doing the breaking a board on purpose or going in the mud in a dress all the time, like every week. So
isn't it weird that like I've done so many shittier things than that, but for that to be, that's a thing that like I'll have PTSD. Like I will remember that memory once a week and have like my whole body just feels it so visceral. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have stepped in the mud.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
No, yeah, I do the same thing.
Right?
Yeah. What is that?
I think we're just kind of fucked up. Trauma is bad. It's one hell of a thing.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And then where are you at now? Like where are you at with the mom stuff? Do you feel like it's how often is it still coming up for you? How often are you, still deeply affected by it? Do you feel like it's much less than it used to be now that you have some of the closure since your special coming out and everything?
It's less for sure. But it's more at the same time, because it's a lot less in the career aspect of it. Because now I feel like I've surpassed whatever success my mom had. And so I feel like, okay, well, maybe I'm all right.
Yeah.
In that world. But in the meantime, when I went home, I found all my mom's albums, the recordings of her songs from the 70s and 80s. So I like remixed those and remastered them. I had somebody do it. And now I'm like in the thick of just listening to those all the time. And I remember those songs and they're so good. And I'm trying to get somebody now to like reissue them. They were never released because of some terrible deal they tried to make or something. But so yeah, it's still always going to be a part of everything, everything. The truth is, every time I see a mom like hug their child, it makes me want to cry.
Yes,
and that's kind of just never going to go away.
Oh man, I was hoping you're a couple more years out of it than I am. I was hoping it goes away.
Well, no, because I remember the good time. It's a reminder that I did have that. My mom was affectionate and she did love me, even though she was all jacked up.
Well, on that note, thank you so much. I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was really, I don't know. Hopefully people aren't too bummed out or whatever.